want to thank everyone on the platform tonight. Thank you so much for joining. So we are where we are now. Everywhere you turn to, it is COVID-19. 90% of the content of news today is on COVID-19, virtually everywhere. Yeah. I saw an Instagram post the other day from a church in the US, and I felt it was quite interesting. And the post simply said, can we uninstall 2020 and install it again? The version has a virus, right? I thought it was quite interesting. But you see, we can't uninstall it. So 2020 is here, and all the things we found around us, they are here. You can't uninstall it. You can't install it again, even though it appears it has a virus. So there's a virus, right? So a lot has happened globally. Economies are failing, right? Various GDPs are shrinking across the world, and Nigeria is not an exception. But can I also say that in the midst of this, it's not just been a story of gloom. There are also some bright lights coming out of this. We've been able to reconnect with ourselves, reconnect with family, a whole lot of other things. We are retraining ourselves. The way we work has changed, and so on and so forth. I mean, I was sharing with some people. I used to commute, to work and back about 4 hours a day on the average. So 2 hours going, 2 hours coming back, and that's quite stressful. But this day I work from home. I've been working from home in the past 6-7 weeks. And your life is more together. You can be fresh and think more properly, and productivity has also increased. So there are also bright spots coming out of this. And by the way, people are also making a hell of money out of this situation. I mean, everybody is now producing sanitizer. Everybody's producing one type of PPE or the other, right? New forms of industries and businesses have risen up, particularly in Aba. People are creating, these face masks and so on and so forth. So it's not all stories of gloom, okay? Now, to zero in on our conversation today, I just want to make a few quick points, and then I will open it up for questions. Yesterday, I was just reflecting on, this session today, and something just came to my mind as a template, because it's also a church setting. So if we take a template again from scripture, I will share a few thoughts. It just dawned on me, okay, so this is another template we can use to have this conversation, because it really brings out the things I want to touch on. So I'll just read out a very quick scripture, and then I will start, talking about life after COVID, the things I think we need to start positioning for at this time. In 2 Kings chapter 7, I'll read verses 3 to 5. 2 Kings chapter 7, verses 3 to 5. Now 4 men who were lepers were at the entrance of the city gate, and they said to one another, why do we sit here until we die? Why do we sit here until we die? If we say we will enter the city, then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we still here, we die also. So now come, let us go over to the army of the Syrians. If they spare us alive, we shall live. And if they kill us, we shall but die. So they arose in the twilight and went to the Syrian camp. But when they came to the edge of the camp, no man was there. You know the end of the story. They were able to, find all the food they wanted, and the land was enriched because of this singular action. Now, let me just say something. Now, the context of this story is a context of famine. It is a context of recession, if you will. It was recession, all right? There was no food in the land. Food prices went up. If you read chapter 6, food prices went up, which is what is happening now, right? Food prices just skyrocketed. It became so bad. People could not even access food. It became so bad that a woman conspired with another woman, and they killed a child and ate. And they were supposed to eat the other woman's child the next day. So, and the king was helpless. So it's sort of a picture of what is happening around us now. So serious economic recession, prices have jumped, jobs are being lost, all sorts of things are happening, businesses are shutting down, and all of that. And governments are a bit clueless. I mean, you will see the confusion in the best of governments in the world. And our own is not an exception. So the king was saying to that woman on that day, if God doesn't help you, where do I find help for you? They were helpless. Leaders of nations were helpless at that time. But can I tell you, from the story of the 4 leprous men, I find 3 critical things, and I want to use it to talk to you tonight. Number one thing that we find, okay, so I was saying that recession is here in the country, you know, and I think Nigeria's case is a little bit exacerbated because we have our own internal structural problems, right? Which this whole thing has just brought to the fore. We have serious structural problems. So when 90% of the things you consume in the country is imported, then you're in trouble. When nations are closing, you know, nations are not really exporting. So people are holding back on even what they have. Okay, people are not exporting drugs. So very soon we may have a crisis in the medical field because drugs are running out. Hospitals are running out of drugs, and there's no replacement imports coming because every nation is holding back their drug supplies. They are not exporting them, right? So it's a serious, serious crisis we are in. And in the midst of that, oil prices have also collapsed, which is the mainstay. I mean, fiscal revenue that comes to Nigeria, 50% of it is from oil, all right? Our entire earnings, over 80% of our earnings in Nigeria is from oil, crude oil. And when that is impacted the way it has been impacted, then we have a big problem in our hands. And I'm using this to create a context, not fear. Now, the meaning of that is that the level of money and reserves that we have to be able to sustain import, it is also going down. So you can't continue importing. It's a kind of leisure we had enjoyed in the past. You can't continue. Absolutely, you can't do it because there's no money to fund that. Okay, I mean, it's good the CBN governor keeps giving hope and so on and so forth, but let's face it, our reserves are shrinking. You cannot continue to import. They are unable to deliver all the foreign exchange required for the imports. That's the simple truth. All right. So that means something has to fundamentally change. And inflation is rising, soaring every day. It's gone to 12 points, about 6-something%. And by June, inflation is going to hit like 15%. That's a projection. So we are in a very interesting period. Okay. And government has continued borrowing. And there is so much pressure on our revenue. Okay. In fact, there's a gap in revenue of about between 15 to 17 billion dollars in terms of revenue gap that we have as a country. So in the midst of that, what do we then need to do? So we go back to this story of the 4 leprous men. The first thing we find them doing is what I call adaptation, right? So you have to adapt to this time. What did they do? Adaptation is a mental adjustment, a mental realignment, being able to adapt to a present situation. So that's what these 4 leprous men did, number one. So they say, why do we sit here and die? Right? We need to adapt to what is happening. Why do I need to panic? I sit at home and bemoan my fate. I sit at home and I'm crying over my business that is shut down. So I run the school and schools are not open. I do the other one, they are all shut down. Why do I sit here and die? Let me do something. So that's the kind of mental readjustment we need to do. Some people have lost jobs, and I don't know who is sitting on this platform today and you've lost your job. There has to come that point where you reconfigure yourself mentally and start saying, what else can I do? That's what this leprous man did. Say, why sit here and die? Are you going to sit there and die? Are you going to live on begging? No, you won't do that. And that's where they started from. All right. So we need to accept the change that has happened. We cannot continue to live in denial. The world has changed. Things have changed. Whatever loss we've incurred, we've lost it. That's what it is. So we need to start adapting and moving on. And by the way, adaptability is a very key leadership trait. All right. People who want to put people in positions of leadership, they want to find out how adaptable are you, because things are on a fast pace in terms of change. Things are changing at jet speed all around us, and you're going to see more changes happen around us. Okay, the changes have not stopped. There will be more changes coming. All right. So adaptability is a key trait for leaders, and adaptable leaders, you need to be more flexible in your thinking. These people, they say, why do we sit here and die? So instead of bemoaning our faith, how else can we think? How do we appreciate what is happening? So you need to be more flexible in thinking at this time. Okay? You can't get stuck in the old patterns that you were thinking. The things that used to work are no longer working. They are no longer working, and so you will need to adjust yourself at this time. So think in a more flexible way. Plan ahead. That's part of adaptability. And the third trait of adaptability is being curious. Ask more questions. Ask more questions. Be inquisitive. Ask questions. How does this work? How can this be done? How can this be done? So open your heart. So 3 things in terms of adaptability we must imbibe at this time. Flexibility of thought. Number 2 is planning ahead of time. Be able to see tomorrow. Be able to see next year. And number 3 is that sense of curiosity. This will be very critical at this time. So we need to start readjusting, all right? And I've been challenging people around me. What is changing in your line of business? What is changing in your job? So these are the things we need to start asking. What is changing there? How do you position yourself? So by the time this is over, okay, so let me pick a number. Let me pick a date, pick a time. Assuming this thing ends in June. Assuming it ends in July. Assuming it ends in August. So when we wake up in August and this thing has been contained, that everywhere has opened up, okay, what would have changed? Those are the questions, the hard questions we need to start thinking. What would have changed in my field? What would have changed in the line of business I am doing? So that is the first step, adaptability. Adaptability. The second thing we find these people saying is that they did some analysis in their brain and they say, if we say we will enter the city, then the famine is in the city and we shall die. We shall die there. And if we sit here, we die also. Right. So this is proper analysis they were doing. All right. This is what I call arise. It's like rising up mentally. It's like reconstructing your reality. That's what they were doing here. They reconstructed their reality. So number 1 is to accept, adapt to what is happening now. The other thing is to start a mental reconstruction. All right. If this doesn't happen, then this. If this doesn't happen, then this. That is where we are now putting ourselves in tomorrow. Be able to plant yourself in August this year. Be able to plant yourself in September this year. Be able to plant yourself in December. Plant yourself in 2021. What is then going to be in place? So seek to stay ahead. Don't just get frozen at this time. Seek to stay ahead. So what's going to happen in the next 2 years? What's going to happen in the next 5 years? What will be relevant at that time? So I'm throwing questions and I would like to hear your responses to this. So what will be relevant? What jobs are going to be relevant? What kind of business are going to be relevant? Right? And so we've done some analysis because I manage businesses. So we've been asking some hard questions. All right. And I think LBS also has done a study and come up with a few of these things. And these things are in the public domain. Which sectors are going to be the hot zones? Hot zone meaning which sectors are most impacted in a negative way at this time. And I'll give you a few examples. Aviation has been heavily impacted. So our friends that work with airlines and so on, go and ask them, they have been deeply impacted. Who is traveling now? Airports are shut down in most parts of the world. All right. And it's important to begin to understand. So this area has been impacted at this time. So aviation is impacted. Hospitality is impacted. Who wants to go to a hotel now? Who wants to? Who wants to even go to an eatery? All right. So that sector has been heavily impacted. Trading, except for the fast-moving consumer goods, except for consumables. Okay. Most of trading has gone down. I don't know what is happening to those who sell phones, who sell television. I have some of my friends and clients who sell cars. I don't know who is still doing big business in that area. So trading is impacted, catering is impacted, brewing is impacted, real estate is impacted, tourism, I think, is also impacted. So these are like red zones, right? So if you're in any line of business that I've mentioned, it will be a time to start reconfiguring. What else will I do? How do I modify things? How do I diversify? If you work there, what will be relevant in the future? So what do I need to do? I'll jump straight to what I consider the green zones, the areas that are growing at this time, and it will help us further in this conversation. So telecoms is growing. Oh my God. I can't imagine how much money MTN and Glo are making at this time because everyone is living on data. So what we have done is that we have switched our transport costs. We are spending it on data now because we are sitting at home. We are traveling on data. We are holding this meeting on Zoom. And by the way, I'm sure many of you know this, that Zoom has moved from a subscriber base of 10 million people who were subscribers at December last year. As at April, we don't know what the figures for May will be. As at the end of April, their subscriber base have moved from 10 million to 300 million. Please, can you beat that? 300 million subscribers from 10 million in just a space of 4 months. All right. So telecoms and IT are big. They are smiling to the bank. Believe me, they are winking and enjoying this. So for as long as we are the way we are, they are very happy. Everyone is on data. Everything. In fact, you know, social distancing, what it has meant is that with social distancing, more activities have moved online. So many activities. I mean, I ran a session yesterday, a strategy session that typically we will bring people from all over the country. They will travel to Lagos, we'll lodge them in hotels, and so on and so forth. We spent 7 hours online having our session. Just had it online. The same thing we could have done traveling physically. So everything is moving online at this time. So the telecoms companies and the IT companies are smiling to the bank. So if you have a business around along those areas, man, you are money at this time. So let's keep opening our hearts. So the areas that are thriving, e-commerce is thriving. I mean, there are data across the world. I don't have the time to start sharing with you, but you see, activities are moving online. So e-commerce has become very big. People are doing all kinds of purchases online. So we have distributions and storage, we have healthcare, we have pharmaceuticals, oil and gas upstream. All of these areas are rising. They are rising. So if you have opportunities in this space, please just grab it with 2 hands. And the same thing affects jobs. So those who have jobs in those red zones, they are affected. So it's either loss of job or reductions in salaries are going on at this point. So you need to start rethinking. What will even this my sector look like in the next few months? What will it be, right? What are the skills that will be required, you know, in the next few months? So this is very important. I've kept encouraging everybody around me, please learn some new skills, relevant skills that will be useful in the next couple of months. Some of us are going back to do e-learning. So just go and do a program somewhere. Find out what will work. Okay, find out what will work. What will be required in the line of business you are in at this time. So I think digital skills are very, very critical at this time, right? Somebody was chasing me before this pandemic on, you know, getting high placement to be a teacher in a school, right? So 2 days ago, she reached out to me and said, how far? I was wondering, doesn't this person see what is going on? You're asking me for a new job in a school at this time. Does it make any sense? I don't think it does. But if there is somebody who knows how to create online content, you want to build content for delivering lessons online, yes, then we can find you somebody who wants that service at this time. So begin to think about the kind of skills that will be required in the future. And that future is already here, my friends, right? That's the other thing you need to understand. The future it has already happened, all right? So the normalcy we want to return to is not going to be normal as a normal, all right? A lot of things are going to be changing. So let me jump that. The third attitude that I saw in these people, so I've covered adaptability, I've covered rising, just those kind of mental, you know, reconstruction. And the final point I want to make is for you to advance, and that is to have a plan and disciplined execution. Have a plan and have a disciplined execution. So what did they say? They say, so now come, let us go, let us go. So they have planned their thing and they were poised for execution. All right, this is not a time to sit back and do nothing. Just whatever you think up now, please start executing it. So they say, let us go over to the army of the Syrians. If they spare us alive, we shall live. And if they kill us, we shall but die. So you just try something. That's what this is saying. Just try something. Be on the move. So get moving, right? And as you move, you start seeing things falling in place for you. So start positioning yourself now. Pick up new skills, as I've said. Relaunch your business if you have to. You know, find what other thing else that you can do. What can you diversify into? Is there something connected to the area of business you are already in that can create some expansion for you, right? So can you create an online version of yourself, an online version of your business? I've been singing this like a song in various platforms. Please find an online version of your business. Find a digital version of your business. Find a self-service version of your business. And find what skills as an individual you can acquire along that line. The other thing I want to mention to you is that local production has become more critical than it has ever been. So if somebody is telling you today, import so and so kind of goods from our country, say no. Find a way to start that production locally. All right. Anything you do in terms of local production now is going to do well because we are driving import substitution. The central bank is poised to do that. They are going to support any effort to drive local production. That's where they are. They are providing incentives, all kinds of incentives. They are providing all kinds of support funding for all kinds of people who want to do some local businesses, do some local production. So you can go to the CBN website and find a whole lot of information around that. I will encourage you to do that. So if there's anything you can produce locally here, start doing it. Okay, I was talking with a group of people in a meeting earlier today, and I was saying to them, you know what? Even if it is something manual, just start creating something here locally, right? You do that local thing because right now nobody has the money for importation. See what exchange rate is even doing. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, there are things that are going to go off the shelf in our supermarkets very soon, unless something happens very fast. All right. So if you can identify those kind of items and find a way to start producing, even if it is small, around here. I mean, who is importing face mask again? So people just quickly reverted and started doing that locally. All right. So find other things like that. Essential goods that may be off the shelf because the prices are going to be very crazy to be able to import them. Right. The foreign exchange is not even there. So find them, and if you can do some local production, that will be just fine. All right. So I will just finally touch on this thing. So a few examples. You can also replicate your examples in various other sectors. So I just speak like 3 sectors and talk through some of the things that will happen after COVID. So after this time, I think it's not sacrosanct because in some areas things are beginning to shape up. Education is going to change. So we'll have 2 options. There will be the virtual education option and there will be the back to classroom option. I think this will happen, right? We'll still go back to classroom, but that side of virtual education will start coming up very strongly. So if you're in education, start thinking of that. How do you deliver, virtual learning, and how do you also do classroom? Because there will be a combination of that, coming forward. I think some virtual schools may spring forth. I think so, right? Some schools may spring forth that are just purely virtual. After all, we are doing online MBA programs, right, with universities abroad. So those kind of things will start coming into the country. So people can actually start positioning themselves for that sort of thing. So for professionals, I think that there will be 2 patterns also in working as a professional now. So there will be the work from home option. Some institutions have said, okay, just stay at home, just stay at home. My own company has said, stay at home. Even with the easing of the lockdown, they've told us to stay at home. And I was saying to someone the other day, so I have a team that work under me in the office. I'm not going to ask all of them to return to the office. It's definitely not. I'm going to start rotating them because I found out that people can actually work from home and be effective. Just tool them up and they will do that. Okay, so there will be that option of working from home. And of course, there will be the back to a socially distant office. So people may be asked to come back to office, but we'll need to keep some social distancing for a while. In manufacturing, I think there will be so much adaptation of backward integration. People are going to now start, how do you combine what you are doing and get into other parts of the value chain in that manufacturing sector? So I was speaking to a manufacturer, I think it was on Friday. Okay, yeah, on Friday, I was speaking to a manufacturer. So one of the components that they use in their factory is imported. So he's thinking, how do I start the local production of that imported component here? Because that's the only thing that makes sense now. So you see a lot of those sort of backward integrations where people are now sourcing some of those things they source abroad. They will start sourcing it and turning it into the value chain of their company. So that will happen. Or people may continue doing just importing, being import dependent. So those are the 2 options that will come in manufacturing. And you can actually pick various other sectors and begin to check, what are the options that will be there. So check that for yourself as an individual, as a professional, as an employee. Check that also as an entrepreneur. What are the things going to change? All right. We've seen church. Church is also changing. So I think some of these things are going to continue, honestly. Honestly, they will continue. So you can meet physically so that you don't breach scripture, not forsaking the gathering of yourselves together. That's fine. It's only to know that in the 21st century is what we are doing on Zoom today, not a gathering. I don't know. So we will gather together, but you know, there will be more investments coming for churches in digital platforms. It will happen. All right. Even before COVID, I know of a church, I won't mention the name. They were very big on the online platform. So people who were professionals, so they weekday activities, let's say prayer meeting is holding on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, people logged in from their offices and joined the prayer meeting online. Okay, so we're going to see a lot of those kind of things. So online versions of various institutions, they are going to happen. And you need to therefore open your mind. What areas do you have interest in? If you are reading a course in a university now, you've not graduated, you know, is that course you are reading going to be relevant in the near future? Or is there something else you need to train on in terms of developing some skills? So those are the questions that are going to come. I think what has happened is that the disruption that technology was to deliver, because we're talking about a second machine age, the fourth industrial revolution, and so on and so forth. So digital disruption. I think this COVID-19 just accelerated the pace. That's what has happened. All of these things were already in place before now, but people were still, you know, moving gradually. The place where I work, they were encouraging us to be working from home at least once in a week. In fact, my employment terms were changed so that I could work from home every Tuesday, but I could not do it. For over 2 years, I had that approval. I think I only work from home like 5 days in 2 years. Okay, but there has been an acceleration of the pace of embracing, you know, digitization. That's what has just happened. So this thing just pushed us to the wall to start embracing some of the changes that were already creeping in there. Okay, so I will pause at that point and field some questions if there are questions. But these broadly, these are the things I'm thinking about for this period as we begin to think about what will I be by July, by August, by December, whatever time this whole thing eases up, what will I be? So let me recap. Number one, please don't get glued to the numbers that are coming out in the news media, all right? Please balance your view about this thing. This is not the end of the world. And those numbers are not unusual, please, friends. They are not unusual. They are not even big. I think there's a hold back. Our prayers are being answered. There's a hold back. This thing is not killing people as they have projected it. Melinda Gates said that people will be falling and dying on the streets of Africa. It's not happening. That's not true. Okay? So even if the numbers continue to rise, remember the other fatality numbers of other sicknesses. So that will keep your heart at peace, but remain careful. That is one. And I've said number two, be adaptable at this time. Number three, have that mental reconstruction to know what life will be going forward and how you step ahead of that, and be brutal about the execution. Find the other versions. What else is going to be happening and how do you view into that? So I will pause there and then take some questions if there are. Thank you. I can't hear your voice. I hope you're not on mute.
Okay, if you have any question, please can you just send us a message on chat so that we can unmute you to ask your question. If you have a question, just send us a message on chat, then we can unmute you to ask your question. I believe that we all have questions. And part of what I want to find out, sir, now that things are changing, someone that is starting life, for example, someone that just finished NYSC who wants to go into local production. You've said it now that there is hope for the person, but in terms of how to access funds and all that, what do you have to talk about accessing of funds and all that? Then, what is the hope of people that somehow their businesses, they are running a business, and right now so many things are happening, and we know that in Nigeria we don't have any bailout. How do they get to the point where they say that yes, no matter all the challenges going on, that we have hope for our business not to get to a point where we're out of the market? I don't know whether you have any information based on the financial institution where you work that has to deal with finance and that has to deal with people accessing funds, especially in a time like this.
Okay, all right. So let me be very clear. So for somebody who is just coming out of university, I would recommend go to the website of Bank of Industry, BOI, right? BOI has packages for people who want to, if you are just straight from university, you're a fresh graduate, they have a package for those who are just coming out. You tender your NYC certificate, you know, and they will give you some funding to do your startup. So check Bank of Industry. They have financing for fresh graduates, all right? That said, I also want to recommend any business you are starting, there are various ways to source funds, right? So you can, friends and family, soft loan from friends and family. Is there any little savings you have? Because often it is also important to have your money in that business, right? Because
Okay.
if you borrow the entire money, if anything goes wrong, you are still indebted. So it's not a grant. Even the BOI are not giving you a grant. It's not free, all right? So you still have to repay it. So it's also important to have some little savings of your own. I recommend that strongly for any startup, ordinarily, right? So have some little savings so that if the business does not work out, because there are always teething problems in any fresh business, right? So it may not always go exactly the way you planned it. So you may have those initial hiccups so that it is not some other person's money that has been lost and therefore you are indebted at the same time, okay? But that's it. You can check with BOI, right? They have some funding. On businesses that have been impacted by this COVID, there are actually palliatives for small businesses that are available. There are, all right? So the CBN has rolled out, I think there's a 50 billion fund for households and SMEs, small, medium enterprises who have been impacted by COVID. But that is being disbursed by only one bank. That bank is Nesal Microfinance Bank. Nesal is the development finance arm of the central bank. So just check Nesal Microfinance Bank. They are the people that are being used to disburse those loans. Nesal is spelled N-I-R-S-A-L. N-I-R-S-A-L. So they have a 50 billion COVID fund for, you know, small businesses that have been impacted. And of course, for those who are in pharmaceuticals and so on and so forth, there are several funds. There are several funds the government has rolled out. So as I said, go to the CBN website. You will have all of these details. They provided all kinds of funding and assistance. And I was listening to the CBN governor. There was a webinar he did recently, and they are promising to even do more, particularly for those who are in the manufacturing sector. Okay.
My question: what of the people that they have something they are doing already, and most times they find it difficult getting an assistance from bank financially. Maybe they have something to do, and they will severally maybe they have gone to bank for an assistance to help them maybe fund or what they are doing. But severally it has not happened. So what advice do you have to give to such people, or maybe what to do in future? That's my question, sir.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, Kelechi. So there are several things. Let me explain. For banks to give you money, remember, the money that banks give out, it's not their money, it's people's money, right? So what banks do is that they take money from those who have excess and they give it. So you take from the surplus and give to the deficit side. That's the simplest principle of banking, right? Now, so any money they give out, they need to recover it, because if they don't recover it, they are then indebted to the depositors who brought the money. So this is the basic principle, right? Therefore, a bank can only give money if it is sure that it can recover that money. So that is why we have some credit parameters or whatever. That's what we call it, right? So first, that is the second point. Whatever little business you are doing, make it bankable. Because what people do is that it is at the time they need bank financing. That's when they start building a record with a bank. It doesn't work that way, right? The way it works is from day one, have a bank account in the name of your company. All the monies, put it in and out, because they need to also be seeing that turnover there, so that they're able to know the strength of your cash, how much cash you're able to generate. So people sometimes sell and they don't pass it to the bank, they collect the cash and then they buy cash, right? So the record is not in their account record with the bank, right? So you need to be bankable. That is the first point. Be bankable. Now, in being bankable also, so you build that record to a time where you can now approach a bank and say, I want assistance. So they can actually review and see that your business merits this volume of money. That is on the one side. The other side of it is that there is also a need. Most banks, commercial banks particularly, require that you provide security for the money they are giving to you, right? So again, we encourage people, if your business is growing, start making an investment in the sort of items that the bank can collect as security, i.e., you can do an investment like, so you are putting aside some money, maybe in an offshore bond, you know, you have I don't know how to describe this so that it comes to your level, but you can invest in some securities, right? Invest in some shares, some are local, some are foreign, right? There are banks that can take those investments and they can lend to you against it, right? You can invest in a property, okay? You can invest in a property in an area that, you know, will be reasonable. If you build something in your village, it may not be that, like those of you that when you make your money, the first place you are building is in your village, you build a mansion there. No bank will take that. But if you take half of that money you are using to build a mansion, to buy a piece of property in Lagos, to buy a piece of property in Port Harcourt, or wherever else, I mean, I don't know who are here, wherever else you are logging in from. If you buy a piece of property in a developed area, right? Eventually, when you require money, you can stake that and then take the cash and continue running your business. Again, there are now some fintechs, well, financial institutions that are technology driven, some fintechs that are doing online kind of loan, they grant loans online, they do it digitally, right? Sometimes they don't ask for collateral, but the pricing is higher. So the other people that have resorted to them, so they put, and there are quite a number of them, right? Some of them lend to individuals, some of them lend to SMEs. So you can identify that it's just that the cost is higher, right? But if you have a proper bankable business, it helps you a lot. As you grow, you can even attract funds from other development institutions, right? You can attract, you know, funding from even some offshore banks because of the kind of record you keep. And I will mention that also. Part of being bankable and being credit worthy is being able to have proper records for your business. Have your accounts audited. Prepare all of those things as a matter of fact, not because you want to go and borrow money. That's when you start doing it. Have it as a normal process in your company, as part of your structure and system, right? That will make it easy for a bank to step in and see what you are doing. Any bank that sees a company that is keeping proper record, you know, their cash flow, they know how to manage their things. Very safe. And try to invest in some asset that you can borrow again.
Good evening, Uncle Ben. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share in your experience and word of wisdom, sir. So I have 3 questions, one from career, one from business, and the other for ministry, sir. I will just go quickly. One for industry, sir. So I wanted to find out if you have an idea of what the options that are available for people working in the hydrocarbon industry, especially in Nigeria. As much as we know, the hydrocarbon industry has been hit seriously. And I wanted to know what options are there, especially for most of the workers that work on field. Them are being laid off. People are hearing different stories in that industry. But most especially for the HSE workers, because it's more or less like in the hydrocarbon industry, all eyes are on them now because of the health implications of the pandemic. So is it that, would there be a need for people to go and recertify, maybe to learn new world practices to contain the whole spread? Would there be a need for workers in this industry to invest in retraining of themselves to make themselves viable to be retained or to be employed. So I wanted to find that out. That was for the career part, sir. Then for business, sir, I'm actually into furniture making, and I had tried before now. I noticed that most of the engineered boards that we use to make furniture, our kitchen cabinets and wardrobe, are actually imported from China. Almost all of them are imported from China. And I've actually tried before now to get people to start local manufacturing, because it will be, the materials will then be cheaper and readily available here in Nigeria. But that did not work. So I wanted to find out, is this a good time to hit that road again, to try again to see if that will work? Although the investment for that is highly capital intensive. The materials and machines need to make that, they are very high, but I don't know if it is the best time to revisit that, because presently now materials are not coming into the country, and there's a high shortage of wooden materials to make that happen. Then finally, sir, for ministry, sir, I wanted to find out what advice you would have for churches, young churches that would not have the financial capabilities to make this online switch. You know, the truth is that from our own end, from church, we found out that it's actually very financial intensive to do a lot of things online at this moment. So what advice, where can we start from? Where can young churches start from at this point? What's the first step that we need to take and to help us grow with finances and making our presence known online, sir? Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Wow. This is not double barrel, triple barrel. All right. So I will attempt answers to them. Yeah. So the first one is quite interesting. Very interesting question. And it doesn't only affect your sector. So this will be for all the sectors that are affected. So what would the workers there do? Let me give you an example. There are a lot of support coming from companies that are very responsible. So I don't know which company you work for, or whoever sent the question works for in that sector. But there's a lot of support coming from, the companies that work there. So in terms of advisory, how do you now reposition yourself? I don't know how many of you know about Airbnb. Airbnb is into aviation in the US. So they just laid off, started their process of laying off about, I think 20 or 25% of their workforce, okay? Which is about 1,000 something of their workers. I mean, the speech or letter written by the CEO of the company, oh my God, it was very, very deep and compelling. All kinds of support they are granting. And I've seen those kind of things happen in an organization, and they provide support, even help you to find job. I mean, Airbnb was even committing to, putting them in agencies, putting their people that are going to be affected in agencies that can help them, retrain them and position them for that job. So first of all is to find out what is the level of support the specific organizations are providing. And your point is very valid. So you don't fold your hand, as we mentioned earlier in discussing the template of the 4 lepers. You don't fold your hand and die there, right? So it will now be to start asking those very hard questions. So what next and what else? So if there are certification programs, and can I tell you even, so if there is an environmental issue right now that heightens the health risk within that sector, is this something that helps solve that problem? All right. Can you take a training in that area? You might just become, have a breakthrough in terms of introducing something of value to, people in that sector. All right. So it's a time to really sit back and recalibrate your journey. That would be what I would say. So sit down and ask, so what else can I do? What other skills do I have? Do I have what we call transferable skills? All right. They are skills that are required in multiple sectors. So do I have any transferable skills, right? Do I need to switch to another area? Is there any certification? Because mind you, as you said, you call them agency or contract staff. That's what I understand by agency workers. That's normally the place they will start from, right? So is there some certification that you can have that can help you launch into mainstream? Even though right now, because of, the level of financial losses some of those companies are suffering, they are not hiring. I mean, the best of companies are not even hiring at this time. So, but how do you get prepared? Because things will not always be like this. So this is like an incubation period for us. So now that this thing has happened, maybe they've laid somebody off. What then can you use this period to do in terms of re-education, repositioning, and so on and so forth, so that you can be relevant either in the same sector or somewhere else. So ask those questions. What opportunities can emerge within that sector? Is there any support that the company is giving? Are there some transferable skills that you have? All right. Is there something else you can do elsewhere? What preparation would you require? Okay. So those are the things that can come to mind at this point. Okay. And hoping that it is useful. To your second question on business, and again, your question is very, very to the point. Anything that used to be imported, people are having a hard look. I just told you the story of the man in manufacturing who is thinking of manufacturing part of the major chemicals they use in their sector, manufacturing it here. So I can tell you, my brother, this will be a good time to start thinking of import substitution. Okay? I mean, I had a meeting earlier today, with some people outside the country, and just thinking about what the opportunities are. And those investments can be capital intensive, but can I tell you something? Find out what the returns are going to be. So if you are doing some import substitution, and this thing will not only affect the local market, you have the West African sub-region that is available. You can do things in such a way that you can also export it and earn foreign exchange. My brother, if you can earn foreign exchange today, your life will change. All right? So it is time to start talking to people, and don't do it alone. Start talking to people who have experience in this, people that have the capacity to pull through a manufacturing concern that solves this kind of problem. Do you know that there are people who have money and they are looking for a way to deploy it? They don't have the ideas. They don't have the experience and expertise. So they're looking for a way to deploy it. So you need to prayerfully start, searching for such kind of people. Find people who are in that field already. Okay, do they want to now go into the local manufacturing of these goods and so on and so forth? Okay, and be able to make the investment. And you can put the word out there and carefully begin to do some sort of private placement. Find people here and there who may be willing to come into that. And you need to get maybe a consultant, do a proper feasibility study, because any investor want to see what are the numbers looking like, all right? Is there a market, what's the source of access to raw material, blah, 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 access to market, is there expertise and so on and so forth. So you may need to do a proper feasibility so that when you make your pitch, it is coming from an informed, point of view that people can respond to who are equally intelligent, right? So that would be my take on that. On your final question about churches and how they position. See, online presence has become very, very important, right? It doesn't matter at what scale. Even if you need to use your phone and pre-record some messages and create a WhatsApp platform for your church members, if you're a small church, create a WhatsApp platform and drop the message for them on a Sunday and let them have that service. You need to do that. You need to actually be present online. So some of them are not that capital intensive, and the experts in that area that can guide you, okay? I saw an organization wrote to me a couple of weeks ago when this whole thing started and say, they can put you on various platforms at very little cost, very, very little cost, right? I sent out their contacts to a few people who run churches that I know, okay? So I can send it to you. You can explore that, but there are some creative ways people are trying to manage through this period, but your people must hear your voice at this time. You can't cut off from them, right? You can't cut off from them, particularly if they have access to the internet. You can't cut off from them. Where we're having challenges are those who are in remote villages. They don't even have a smartphone. So that's a different kettle of fish. But for any set of church membership where they have access to be able to do things on their smartphone, I think you must have some sort of online presence. Some of them are cheap. Ask the experts, they will be able to guide you. You can do something very basic. You can pre-record those things and share, right? On whatever platform you can do it, so that people can log on and watch your service or whatever else you do. Yeah. I hope that's helpful.
Somebody has a question. She says, what if I'm a student and I'm into tech? How can I access funds to build an app or a website? That's one. Two is, what if I don't have a tech company myself, but I need to access funds to build an app and a website, and I have no collateral or any means of getting one?
Okay. All right. Interestingly, at this time, there are so many people that are interested in those who have experience in building applications that can solve problems, right? Once an application can solve a problem and somebody sees value and somebody sees what the numbers are going to be in terms of, the returns that will come from them, there are quite a number of people I can tell you who are interested, right? I think this whole thing is just create a solution. Create a solution, right? I have a friend of mine, he runs a robotics center. So I went to the robotics center. They were just setting it up. It's going to be the biggest robotics center in Lagos. So I went to inspect the place, and we sat down and we're talking. He said, what they are trying to do is just find problems. It's not, what children are doing and just creating. You just create a robot, you create an app. No, it will be something that will be targeted at solving specific problems. So if you have a specific problem that app is supposed to solve, you can approach those who will use that app, who will require it, and they will fund it. Believe me, there are people who are waiting, who are asking questions. How can this be done? So you can position it to them, right? Whether you are the one building it or you have the contact of one who is building it. So the issue is not so much the funding. If you are able to put value on the table that is compelling enough, there are people that can, help you with the financing. And as I said also, go to that BOI, Bank of Industry, that's BOI. Go to that BOI website. You will find some funds that are there. You don't require collateral, all right? You don't require collateral to be able to access it. Find out. I know the one of graduates. I'm not too sure about students, but you can check, right? You can check. But I can tell you there are angel investors that can, if you show them something that can create value, something that can solve problems, something that has commercial value, they will invest in it. Yeah. I think the last thing I just want to say to all of you, don't fold your hands at this time. We have an opportunity to make a difference right now. Believe me, every single one of you has an opportunity to make a difference. So don't fold your hand. Don't run as usual. Don't be normal. Okay, these are not normal times. This is the time to distinguish yourself. So think, come up with something, all right? Even if it is not something, at least something that affects you, something that positions you properly at this time. You have that opportunity. Please do it. I was sharing with some people that, you see, it is in crisis times, that's when leaders are made. Leaders are revealed. And it is the people who solve problems that emerge as leaders in times of crisis, right? So this is your time. Please, I like every one of you, try to make a difference. Try to create value at this point. Try to learn something new. Try to improve your skill and position yourself to solve the problem for the next person, right? What this thing actually revealed is that there is so much poverty in the land, so much. There are people that if you dash them 1,000 naira, it will make all the difference for them. Just think about that. Think about positioning yourself where you can generate revenue and you're able to help somebody with 1,000 naira, help somebody with 5,000 naira. It can mean all the world to them. And this is that time. We need to start creating solutions and positioning ourselves to be able to earn to help the next person. I think that's the biggest challenge before us as a people, right? So that's my parting shot. Be the leader. Okay. All right, so let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we want to thank you for this time together. Lord, we thank you for all of the lessons you are teaching us through this period. Thank you for accuracy of seeing and accuracy of understanding. Lord, I ask for everyone on this platform that you bring us into the mode and the spirit of the sons of Issachar, that we may have an understanding, my Father, an understanding of this time, to know what we ought to do. Father, I thank you because everyone will begin to receive inspiration as to what to do. I pray, oh God, for the passion. I pray for the mind to execute. My Father, I pray for a mind to make a difference in this time. Thank you so much, Father. Strengthen every one of us. Empower us. Embolden us. Send courage down through to our spirit that we may be able to do things, oh God, that will position us and position the kingdom for good in this time. We give you praise, our Father. In Jesus' name we are prayed. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for being a blessing to us this evening. We sincerely appreciate and value